Good morning. Happy Monday. I'm Larry the Lion. This is my podcast, Larry the Limitless Lion today. Um, I'm going to be reading from Jim Kwik's book. Having a little technical difficulties. My other mouse is not working, and I didn't put the Zoom link into the description, so I'm going to put it here on Facebook. Let me refresh it there, and I'll throw it over on LinkedIn. I don't think I'll put it on Twitter though. Let me put this right here in the chat, and then I could. Well, yeah, I'm working out the trying to do a Zoom meeting and read at the same time. Um, there's the Zoom meeting link. Let's see if I can do this here on LinkedIn real quick. So I hope everybody's having a great day. I'm going to be doing this until the book is finished. Then probably read another book. So it's just something that'll hold me accountable. I hope somebody gets some value out of it. I like doing stuff like this stuff. So I actually slept for the first time in months. Uh, oops. I like stuff like this stuff. So I actually slept for the first time. Sorry, I put the link into LinkedIn there for anybody who wants to come on a Zoom. I met an amazing real estate agent last week for my podcast on Sunday. Um, Brought me a potential deal. Still working on it. It's not cash flowing. It's like negative 96 right now. But it's a 3% VA loan. And how do I get this into? Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up here and copy that. Pull this up. It won't let me copy it. Whatever. Dang it. Let me see if I can copy it from LinkedIn. So the Zoom link is in the chat. And go here, view profile. How come I can't see what's... Oh, here it is. And I got to figure out how to edit my links. For some reason, I can't edit my links. And there we go. Now I can copy it here. And okay. And I'm just going to share over here on from YouTube to WhatsApp. Put it in the Facebook group, not the group for, community camp group and Julie Barkhart's multifamily group. And Mikey Kirkamo. There's one other group on, but I can't post in there. But give me 1 second. Okay. So how's everybody doing today? Nobody's got nothing in the chat to say. And send. I'm gonna put a Zoom link in there for them too. I'm doing a Zoom at the same time as the podcast, reading Jim Kwik Limitless. I do every. I voice text everything. Sorry. All right, so that's in there. Go back to YouTube. So I don't have I'm having trouble with my mouses. I have two mouses, but only one's working. And all right, so happy Monday. Uh, I'm gonna read this book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Um, like I said, there's a Zoom. If anybody wants to come hang out on Zoom, um, I have a Zoom over on this computer. It's weird looking at myself on two different computers, or two different screens. Actually, I have three screens. One, two, three right now. So, um, if you don't have a copy of the book, you can just you can download a PDF for free, I think. But you really should buy a copy of the book. Um, there is no Audible for the book, so I'm just gonna be reading from the book itself. And it was really cool watching yesterday in Zoom in the morning with Pace. Um, that was for helping new students get their first deal. But a whole bunch more we talked about. Um, it was a good 2 hours of Sunday morning with Pace. Um, so I'm just gonna start from the introduction page. It's I'm gonna skip the preface and forward and all that. I read that a little bit the other way. You can go back and read it. It's not by Jim, it's by a guy named Mark Hyman. So, um, but I'm just gonna get into reading it. If any, can you guys hear me? Okay. So I need to get some microphones too, because we'll talk about that later maybe. But so 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I don't know how long I'll read. Depends. I was hoping to get a few people in the Zoom talk afterwards, but I can just talk to myself. I'll talk to this guy over here on the screen, no, that screen. So, anyways, so ready? Here we go. One second. Gotta get some coffee. Can you see that? Manny Perez made that for me. You know, when you're a child and your imagination is limitless and you really believe in magic, I thought I had superpowers. Michelle Fan. What is your one wish? Seriously, if a genie offered to grant you one wish, but only one, what would you ask for? Limitless wishes, of course. Now imagine that you're a learning genie and I can grant you one learning wish, any one subject or skill. What one thing would you want to learn? What subject or skill would be the equivalent of asking for infinite wishes? To learn how to learn, right? If you really knew how to learn smarter, faster, and better, then you could apply that to everything. You could learn to master your mindset or your motivation or use methods to pick up Mandarin. Marketing, music, martial arts, mathematics. There would be no limit. Why did he use all those M's together? It's a trick, right? You'd be a mental superhero. Anything would be possible because you would be limitless. My mission with this book is to grant you this wish. In the pages that follow, let's start by saying how much I respect and admire you. By investing in this book and not reading it, you are far ahead of most of the population who simply accept their present conditions and constraints. You are part of a small group of individuals who not only want more for their lives, but are also willing to do what it takes to get results. In other words, you are the hero of this story. You've answered the call to adventure. I believe the ultimate adventure we are all on is to reveal and realize our fullest potential and inspire others to do the same. I have no way of knowing how your life journey is taking you to this book. I'm guessing at least part of that journey is accepting the confines put upon you either by others or by yourself. You can't read fast enough to keep up with everything you need to know. Your mind is not agile enough to succeed at work. So definitely no. Let me turn the page here. My mind isn't agile. That's why I'm reading this book. Um, you're not motivated to get things done, or you lack the energy to reach your goals, and so on. The nature of this book is transcending it, ending the trance, the mass hypnosis and lies that we learned from our parents, programming, media, or marketing that suggests we are limited, that somehow we are not enough, not capable of being, doing, having, creating, or contributing. Belief that you're limited might be holding you back from your biggest dreams as well, at least up until now. But I promise you that none of your beliefs truly constrain who you are. We have vast potential inside of us. Um, Untapped level of strength, intelligence, and focus. And the key to activating these superpowers is unlimiting yourself. For more than 25 years, I've worked with people of all ages, nationalities, races, socioeconomic statuses, and education levels. What I've discovered is that no matter where you come from, no matter what challenges you face, you have incredible potential that's just waiting to be tapped. Every person, regardless of age, background, education, gender, or personal history, can advance beyond what they believe they deserve and is possible. And that includes you. Nobody's in the Zoom. Um, Working together, you'll come to think of your own limitations as an outmoded concept. Now, in this book, I refer to superheroes and superpowers. Why is that? First, I'm a bit of a geek that way because my childhood brain injury and learning challenges, I escaped into comic books, movies to inspire me during my struggles. I realized that my favorite ones all share the same pattern, the hero's journey, right? Um, Joseph Campbell's classic plot structure appears in nearly all famed adventures, including The Wizard of Oz, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Eat, Pray, Love, The Hunger Games, Rocky, The Lord of the Rings, Alice in Wonderland, The Matrix, and more. Think of your favorite story or one of the films or books I had just mentioned. Does this sound familiar? The hero, for example, Harry Potter, starts out in the ordinary world, the world they've always known. The hero then hears the call to the adventure. They have a choice to ignore and stay in the ordinary world. You're going to take the red pill or the blue one? Where nothing will change, or they heed the call and enter the new world of the unknown. If they heed the call, as Neo did with the red pill, I took the red pill. When I woke up. um, they met their guide or mentor, or Mr. Miyagi, like Pace Marby. I woke up and met Pace Marby. Thank God. um, who trains and prepares them to overcome obstacles and realize new levels of fulfillment. The hero is introduced to new powers and skills and encouraged to utilize their abilities like never before. They transcend perceived limitations, learn a new way of being, and eventually face their trials. That is like my whole life right now. Exactly. When they return back to the ordinary world, like Dorothy going back to Kansas, I don't want to go back to Kansas or Chicago. Trust me, I'm good where I'm at right now. Um, they take with them the ultimate boon, the treasure, emotion, strength, clarity, and wisdom they discovered from their adventure. Then they share their lessons and gifts with others. Um, the hero's journey is the perfect structure to lend power, purpose to your personal story. In Limitless, you are the superhero. One of my core beliefs is that human potential is one of the only infinite resources we have in the world. Most everything else is finite, but the human mind is the ultimate superpower. There is no limit to our creativity, imagination, determination, or ability to think, reason, or learn. Yet this resource is also among the least tapped. All of us can be heroes of our own story, dipping into the well of our potential every single day and never having that well run dry. That's interesting. But so few of us approach our lives this way. That's why he wrote this book. Sounds weird when reading it like that because I'm reading it. To help you realize that no matter where you are or where you've been, you absolutely can free yourself and go from limits to liberation. That might be the only extra you need to transition from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world. This book is going to provide you with that extra. What you'll get within these pages is a series of tools that will help you cast off your perceived restrictions. You're going to learn how to unlimit your brain, to learn how to unlimit your memory, your focus, and your habits. If I'm your mentor in your hero's journey, then this book is your map to your mastermind, motivation, methods to learn how to learn. And once you've done that, you will be limitless. So here's the door. You know what's waiting for you on the other side, so walk through it. Cool. Anybody have any thoughts on it? There's 33 people watching. Holy shit. That's crazy. Um, Thank you. If an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. If broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from the inside. Where else would they come from? Jim Kwik said it. But I mean, it has to come from the inside. I've got to think of them, right? Um, so we do not need to. We do not need magic to transform our world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. J.K. Rowling. Not a big fan of her. Just kidding. I didn't read any of those Harry Potter. It was like past my time. I watched a couple of the movies though. um, Becoming Limitless. So this is actually on page 3. So if you got the book, we're on page 3. I guess I should post that every day when I'm going to be doing this. I had a great start. By the way, let me up before I keep going. Finally slept. I had my bed that was delivered the Sunday before, put together yesterday with the help of Manny Perez. Thank you, Manny. Couldn't have done it without him. I'm so grateful. I could have, but he made it easier because he brought over a screwdriver, which I didn't have. um, nah, I was one of those guys that just watched my friends work on their cars and build shit. I didn't. I was like, I'm good. I don't want to get any grease on me. Longer story, but anyways, becoming limitless. Page 3. So I'm so stupid. I don't understand. I'm too dumb to learn. So you should never say that. You should never say any of those things because you're speaking that shit into existence. Like one thing I realized this morning, I'm like, I gotta stop saying I'm overwhelmed because I'm overwhelming myself by speaking it into existence. I'm in control. I am in control of my day. I'm in control of my life. So don't ever say I'm so stupid or I don't understand. I'm too dumb to learn. You should never say it because you're not. I can learn. I'm intelligent and I'm not stupid. These were my mantras growing up. There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't tell myself that I was slow, dumb, and that I would never learn to read, much less amount to anything later in life. If a pill existed that could supercharge my brain and make me smarter in one swallow, as there was in 2011 movie Limitless starring Bradley Cooper, I would have given anything to take it. I wasn't the only one who felt this way. Uh, I did about myself. If you'd asked my teachers when I was a kid, many would have said that I was the last person they'd expect to be writing this book for you. Back then, they would have been surprised to know that I was reading a book, let alone writing one. This all stems from an incident in kindergarten that completely altered the course of my life. I was in class one day and there were sirens outside the window. Everyone in the classroom took notice, and the teacher looked out and said she saw fire trucks. The entire class responded to this information the way kindergartners do. We immediately rushed to the windows. I was particularly excited because by that point, I was already obsessed with superheroes, and I still am. To me, firefighters were the closest thing to real life superheroes. I knew I bolted to the window with everyone else. The only problem was that I wasn't tall enough to be able to look down at the fire trucks. Um, I ran back to my desk to get mine, pushing it right up against the huge iron radiator that ran along the bottom of the windows. I got up on my chair, saw the firefighters, and it completely lit it up. I got up. So wait, sorry. I'm gonna make mistakes. That's good though. I'm just getting this out. This was so exciting. My eyes stared and mouth gasped as I watched these courageous heroes in action with their seemingly impenetrable uniforms and their bright red vehicles. But then one of the other kids grabbed my chair from beneath me, which caused me to lose balance and go flying headfirst into the radiator. I hit the metal heater extremely hard and I started losing blood. That had to hurt. The school rushed me to the hospital where doctors tended my wounds, but they were candid with my mother afterward. The injury to my brain was not mild. My mother said I was never quite the same after that. Where I had been an energized, confident, and curious child before, now I was noticeably shut down and had a new difficulty learning. I found it extremely hard to focus. I couldn't concentrate, and my memory was awful. Mm, I've had memory off. No, just kidding. Um, just I'm in control of my days now. I had too much coming in. I was noticeably wait. As you can imagine, school became an ordeal for me. Teachers would repeat themselves until I learned to pretend to understand, all the while other kids were learning to read. I couldn't make any sense out of the letters. Do you remember getting in those reading circles, passing around the book, and having to read out loud? For me, that was the worst. Nervously waiting as the book crept closer and closer, only to look at the page and not understand one word. I think that's where my crippling fear of public speaking initially came from. See, I'm doing this to publicly speak. I need to start doing voice exercises and stuff. Go back and watch my stuff like Mikey Carcamo tells me to do all the time, which I don't. um, it would take me another 3 years to be able to read, and it continued to be a struggle and an uphill battle for a long time after that. I am not sure I ever would have learned to read if it weren't for the heroes I met and saw in comic books. Regular books couldn't hold my attention at all. But my fascination with comic books drove me to keep pushing myself until I could read their stories without waiting for someone else to read them to me. Hmm. And I'm not sure I ever would have learned to read if it weren't for the heroes I met and saw in comic books. Regular books couldn't hold my attention at all, but my fascination with comic books drove me to keep pushing myself until I could read their stories without waiting for someone else to read them to me. I would read them by flashlight under my covers late at night. Those stories gave me hope that one person could overcome impossible odds. I read comic books too, like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Avengers. Those were my favorites. But I also found myself I was lucky enough to have a complete set of encyclopedias, which encyclopedias for people that were born in the last 30 years. That was the internet. Everything that you either had to go to the library and find an individual books or look through encyclopedias to get information for whatever you were trying to research schools or yeah, there was no internet. There was no Google. You had to go read through encyclopedias. And I used to read a lot of encyclopedias. That's what I was reading. That and comic books. I really like looking through encyclopedias, learning and stuff. Somehow I got away from that through, you know, things changed. When my father died Thanksgiving morning, it was like went down for 40 years. So my favorite superheroes growing up were the X-Men. I didn't like the X-Men. The movies were okay. Not because they were the strongest, but because they were misunderstood and weirdly different. I felt I could relate to them. They were mutants. They didn't fit into society, and people who didn't understand them shunned them. That was me, minus the superpowers. The X Men were outcasts, and so was I. I belonged in their world. I grew up in Westchester County, a suburb of New York City, and I was super excited when I discovered that, according to comic books, Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters was located near me. When I was 9 years old, I would get on my bike nearly every weekend to ride around my neighborhood looking for the school. I was obsessed. I thought if only I could locate it, I would find in that school a place where I finally fit in, a place where it was safe to be different, a place where I could discover and develop my own superpowers. The boy with the broken brain. In the real world, life was not very kind. It was around this time that my grandmother, who lived with us and helped raise me, started showing advanced signs of dementia. Watching someone you love lose their mind and memory is hard to describe. It's like losing her over and over until she passed. She was the world, and combined with my learning challenge, she is why I'm so passionate about brain health and fitness. Back in school, I was bullied and made fun of, and not just on the playground, but in the classroom too. I remember one day in elementary school, a teacher, frustrated because I wasn't getting the lesson, pointed at me and said, "That's the boy with the broken brain." I was just crushed to realize this was how she saw me, and that's how others probably saw me in the same way as well. Often, when you put a label on someone or something, you create a limit. The label becomes a limitation. Adults, be careful with their external words because these quickly become a child's internal words. Seen a lot of parents do that. Wow, especially in public, man, some of the things that I watch parents say to their children. I mean, it's talking about my past and my mom, but lesson to you. I should highlight that if you have children. I don't think I'm ever gonna be going that route. I was too stubborn to give up and managed to move on from grade to grade, but I was hardly thriving. When I was advanced in math, while was advanced in math because of the help with a few of my academically talented friends, I was horrible at most other subjects, especially classes such as English, reading, foreign languages, and music. Then in my freshman year of high school, things got to the point where I was at the risk of failing English. My parents were called in by the teacher to discuss what I could do to muster a passing grade. She offered an extra credit project for me. I was to write a report comparing the lives and accomplishments of two geniuses, Leonardo da Vinci and Albert Einstein. She told me that if I did a good job on the report, she would be able to give me enough points to make sure I passed the class. Hold on. After weeks of effort, I typed up the final report. I was so proud of what I'd done that I had the pages professionally bound. The report was a statement for me. It was the way I was going to announce to the world what I was capable of doing. The day the report was due, I put it in my backpack, excited about handing it to my teacher, and even more excited about the response. I anticipated she would have what I had done. Sorry, having trouble reading myself. Uh, I planned to give it her to at the end of the class, so I sat through whatever we were doing that day, trying to concentrate, but constantly finding that my thoughts were flitting back to the look that I expected to see on my teacher's face when I presented with her with the report. But then she threw me a curveball I was not prepared to hit. About halfway through the class period, the teacher ended her lesson. Sorry about that. But she wanted him to present it to the class now. I had spent most of my school life trying to shrink so small that I couldn't be called on in class. When you are the broken one, you don't feel like you have much to offer. I was beyond shy, and I didn't like to draw attention to myself. My superpower back then was being invincible. I was also definitely afraid of speaking in public. I was definitely afraid of it. No. I really was in speech class in seventh grade, and it took a lot to overcome that. But like I'm doing something crazy like reading a book on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter or X. Gotta stop calling it Twitter. X. I like Elon X. His XAI is gonna be dope. You should really check into that one. It's called Grok. Mm. It's a has a sense of humor, which is interesting. All right, page 8. I'm not exaggerating here. If you hooked me up to a heart monitor at that moment, I might have broken the machine. On top of this, I could barely breathe. There was simply no way I was going to be able to stand in front of everyone and talk to them about the work I had done. So I took the only option I saw available to me. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. I stuttered, just barely getting the words out of my mouth. The expression of disappointment on my teacher's face, so different from the expression I'd fantasized earlier, was so profound that my heart nearly broke. But I just couldn't do what she'd wanted me to do. When the class was over, after everyone had left, I threw my report in the garbage, and along with it, a big part of my self respect and worth. You are closer than you think. Somehow, in spite of all the troubles I had in school, I managed to get into a local university. I thought being a freshman in college meant a last opportunity to make a fresh start. I dreamt about making my family proud and showing the world, and more importantly, myself, that I did have the potential to succeed. I was in a new environment. College professors taught differently than high school teachers did, and no one at this college had any preconceived notions about me. I worked my butt off, but I actually wound up doing even worse in my college classes than high school. A few months into this, I started to face my reality. I couldn't see the point of wasting time and money that I did not have. I was ready to quit school altogether. I told my friend about my plans, and he suggested that before I made a decision, I go with him to visit his family for the weekend. Um, he thought that getting me away from the campus might me some perspective. When we arrived, his father showed me around their property before dinner. Along the way, he asked how school was going for me. It was the worst question anyone could ask me at that time. I'm sure my response stunned him. I erupted into tears, not holding back the tears, crying, but straight up bawling. I could see he was taken aback by this, but his innocent question had broken the dam, holding back so many pent up emotions. I told him the whole boy with the broken brain story while he listened patiently. When I was finished, he looked at me directly in the eyes and said, Jim, why are you in school? What do you have? What do you want me to be? Wh- What do you want me to do? What do you have? Wait, hold on. I messed that up. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? What do you want to share? That was quick. Um, I didn't have immediate answers to any of those questions because no one ever asked them before. But as I felt as though I needed to answer them now, I started to speak and he stopped me. He tore a couple pieces of paper from his pocket diary and told me to write down my answers. I spent the next several minutes writing a bucket list. When I was finished, I began folding up the papers and preparing to put them in my pocket. But as I was doing so, my friend's father grabbed the pages out of my hand and I freaked out because I didn't think what I'd written was going to be read by anyone else, especially this complete stranger. But he opened the pages and read while I stewed in my discomfort. It seemed as though he took hours to read what I'd written, though I'm not sure it was only a minute or two. You, and said, when he finished, he said, You're this close, holding the index fingers on his right and left hands about a foot apart. Can't do it. And this statement seemed absurd to me. Um, I told him I couldn't crack this list if I had 10 lifetimes, but then he took his fingers and, without expanding the distance between them, placed one on each side of my head. The space he was describing was my brain. That's the key, he said. Come with me. I have something to show you. So we walked back to the house where he took me to a room that I'd never seen before. It was filled wall to wall, floor to ceiling with books. Now, remember, at that point in my life, I was not a fan of books. It was like being in a room full of snakes. But what made it even worse was that he started grabbing snakes from the shelves and handing them to me. I looked at the titles and realized these were biographies of incredible men and women throughout history. You want to read a really good book? 48 Laws of Power. That one's really good too. Um, well as some early personal growth books, such as The Magic of Thinking Big, The Power of Positive Thinking, and Think and Grow Rich. Jim, I want you to read one of these books a week. My first thought was, have you not been listening to anything I've been saying? I didn't ask this out loud, but I did respond, I don't know how I could do that. Reading doesn't come easily to me, and I have so much schoolwork to do. He held up a finger saying, don't let the schoolwork interfere with your education. I later learned he was paraphrasing a quote often attributed to Mark Twain. Look, I said, I understand how reading these books would be really helpful, but I don't want to make any promises I can't keep. He paused and then reached into his pocket, pulled out my bucket list, and started reading each one out loud. There was something about hearing my dreams in another person's voice that messed with my mind and my soul, something fierce. Truth be told, many of the things on that list were things I wanted to do for my family, things my parents could never afford or would never have done for themselves, even if they could afford them. Hearing this read out loud moved me in ways I didn't think possible. It deeply tapped into my drive and purpose. When he was finished, I told him I would do exactly what he suggested, though secretly I had no idea how I was going to accomplish that feat. Asking the right question. I went back to school after the weekend, armed with the books he'd given me. On my desk were now two piles, one that I had read for school and one that I promised to read. The scale of what I agreed to registered with me. How was I going to make a dent in these piles when reading was such a labor for me? I was already struggling to get through the first pile. What was I going to do? Where would I get the time? So I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't exercise, I didn't watch television or spend time with friends. Instead, I practically lived at the library until one night when I passed out from sheer exhaustion and fell down a flight of stairs, sustaining yet another head injury. How do you get exhausted reading books? I don't know. I guess it's pretty taxing. You know, I, that's an unanswered question. It wasn't until 2 days later that I woke up in the hospital. I thought I had died, and maybe part of me wished that I had. It was truly a dark place and a low point in life. I was wasting away. My weight was down to 117 pounds. 117 pounds. Ironically, that is exactly what I need to lose to get to my goal. Wow, that's really weird. I'm 317.2 pounds today. I want to get to 199.9 pounds by June 19th. 170. That's weird. But that's pretty, dude. Oh my God. There's like three of him in me. I was so dehydrated that I was hooked up to IV bags. As miserable as I was, I said to myself, there has to be a better way. At the moment, a nurse came into my room carrying a mug of tea with a picture of Einstein on it, the very same subject of the book report that inspired me to dig deep and study back in grade school. The quote next to his image said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Here, let me highlight that. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. That's interesting. That's when it dawned on me. Maybe I was asking the wrong question. I started to wonder what was my real problem. I knew I was a slow learner, but I had been thinking the same way about it for years. I realized that I was trying to solve my learning problems by thinking the way I had been taught to think. to just work harder. Isn't that what Pace always says? Work harder. That's what his dad and family work harder, work harder, work harder, not smarter. Um, what if I could learn in a way that was more efficient, effective, and even enjoyable? What if I could learn how to learn faster? I committed in that very moment to finding the way, and with that commitment, my mindset began to shift. I asked the nurse for a course bulletin and flipped through it page by page. After a couple hundred pages, I could find nothing but classes on what to learn: Spanish, history, math, science, but there were no classes teaching students how to learn. So, when I got out of the hospital, I was so intrigued by the idea of learning how to learn that I set my studies aside and focused only on the books that my mentor gave me, as well as books I found on adult learning theory, multiple intelligence theory, neuroscience, personal growth, educational psychology, speed reading, and even ancient mnemonics. I wanted to know what older cultures did to pass on knowledge before they had external storage devices like the printing press and computers. I was obsessed to solve this riddle. How does my brain work so I can work my brain? Interesting. Nobody wants to join the Zoom? Damn it, I gotta order another mouse from Amazon. Son of a bitch. Um, After a couple months of deep immersion into my new self directed studies, a light switch flipped on. My ability to focus was stronger. I started to understand new concepts because I was able to concentrate. I was no longer easily distracted. I could better recall information that I had studied weeks before with little difficulty. I had a new level of energy and curiosity. For the first time in my life, I could read and comprehend information in a fraction of the time that it used to take me. My newfound competence gave me a sense of confidence that I'd never felt before. My daily life changed too. I was clear. I knew what I had to do to move myself forward, and I unlocked an empowering and sustainable sense of motivation. With these results, my mindset had changed, and I started to believe that anything was possible. Right? This is 43. But I was also upset. It seemed to me all of my years of self doubt and suffering could have been avoided if this critical method of meta learning, learning how to learn, had been taught in school. I remember teachers telling me constantly to study and concentrate harder. Telling a child to do things like concentrate is like telling them to play the ukulele. It's very difficult to do without ever being taught how. And following the hero's journey, I couldn't help but share the treasures that I learned. I started tutoring these methods to other students. The turning point came when I worked with a freshman who wanted to learn how to read faster, boost comprehension, and retain information she was studying. She worked diligently and achieved her goal of reading 30 books in 30 days. 30 books in 30 days. Holy shit. That's crazy. I knew how, I mean, you could get little books. um, 30 books in 30 days. I taught her the method you'll learn in chapter 14. Maybe that's we should just skip to chapter 14. That would help me read this quicker on here. Um, it's gonna take a little while, but I'm gonna have a recurring Zoom every day. So anybody wants to join Zoom, Bueller, Bueller, just kidding. It was in that moment I realized that if knowledge is power, then learning is our superpower. Our capacity to learn is limitless. We simply need to be shown how to access it. Seeing the way this woman's life was changed ignited me in a purpose, allowing me to recognize what became my life's mission: to teach the mindset, motivation, and methods to upgrade your brain and learn anything faster so you can unlock your exceptional life. Of course, over more than 2 decades, I've developed a reliable and proven set of practical methods to enhance learning. I have not only kept my promise to read a book every week, but continue to serve and support everyone from children labeled learning disabled to seniors with brain aging challenges. That's scary. Our team, dedicated to memory of my grandmother, passionately supports Alzheimer's research, and we believe education is every child's birthright. Funding the creation of schools around the world from Guatemala to Kenya, providing healthcare, clean water, and learning for children in need via amazing organizations such as We Charity and Pencils of Promise. That's our mission, to build brighter brains. We're leaving no brain behind. I've taught these techniques to others with astonishing results, leading me to address more than 150,000 people in a live audience each year in every field imaginable, to serve as a brain coach to top personalities in sports, entertainment, to train at many of the world's leading companies and universities, to head a large accelerated learning online platform with students from 195 countries, and to host a top educational podcast called Quick Brain with tens of millions of downloads, to have my teaching receive hundreds of millions of video views. That's a lot. This book is filled with lessons and practical advice I've learned over the years, along with wisdom and resources from many of the guest experts who have been featured on our show. I say all this because, having dedicated my life to researching and teaching this subject, I know what's inside this book, and more importantly, I know what's inside of you. Finding Professor X's school. There's a serendipitous coda to this story. As I mentioned, I regularly offer brain coaching to CEOs and their teams. A few years ago, Jim Giannopoulos, then CEO and chairman of 20th Century Fox, invited me to do a coaching session. And with his executive team, I went onto the film lot on Friday morning and spent several hours with top staff members. They were particularly open to my message, and they instantly connected with the techniques. When the session was over, Jim came up to me and said, "That was incredible. It was one of the very best training sessions we've ever held." I was delighted to hear this, of course. Who doesn't want positive feedback? Later, during a tour of the lot, my eye landed on a poster for the Wolverine movie, which was scheduled to come out later that year. I pointed to the poster and said, "I can't wait to see that film. I'm a huge fan." "Oh, you like superheroes," Jim said. "Love them. The X-Men have played a major role in my life." I went on to tell him about my childhood brain injury, how comic books helped me to learn to read, and my search for Professor X's school. I guess he never found it. He smiled at me and said, "We have another 30 days of shooting on the next X-Men movie in Montreal. Why don't you come along and spend the week on the set? The actors would love to work with you." Mute button. There was no way I was going to turn this down. I'd never been on a movie set before, and this wasn't just any movie set. It was an X-Men movie set. The next morning, we got on the plane. They called the X Jet. The other passengers included most of the mutant cast, and I found myself sitting between Jennifer Lawrence and Holly Berry. This was turning out to be the best day ever. That'd be pretty cool. Holly Berry and Jennifer Lawrence. Lucky guy. Um, the next on the plane and the next week on set, I got to share some lines with some of the extraordinary cast and crew. And guess what? The very first scene I got to see them shoot took place in Professor X's school, the very place I'd spent endless days imagining and searching for when I was a kid. It was such a surreal moment for me. Amazingly, that's not the best part of this story. When I got back from the trip, I came home to find a package waiting for me. It was huge, about the size of a large flat screen TV. I opened the package and pulled out an enormous frame photograph of me with the entire X-Men cast. The photo had a note from the chairman which read, "Jim, thank you so much for sharing your superpowers with all of us. I know you've been looking for your superhero school ever since you were a child. Here's your class photo." interesting. So it's 6:50. I said I'd do this an hour every day. I might only do it 30 minutes, and time might change. I had a technical difficulties today. Um, 4 o'clock's my wake up time. We're on page 16, by the way. Where did my bookmarker go? Dang it! But yeah, I'm trying to still work on the times. I finally slept last night. Got my new bed set up. Been a minute. Get my sleep right, get my times right, get it I have a certain amount of affirmations and reading I do in the morning, praying, meditating, visualization. So got that, and then I, jump in a cold shower. Um, gonna start doing some push-ups, something. I need to get a yoga mat. This tile floor is a little bit hard. Yoga mat probably helped a lot, but um, I don't have time to go to the gym or pay for the Ubers to go to the gym or either walk to the bus or the train and spend 20, 30 minutes going each way. It just doesn't work for my schedule. A lot to do. Gonna start doing some expired listings, like Pace said. I have a couple of agents that can pull those for me, and well, them also to call. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna keep I think maybe do this only 30 minutes. It was kind of long, an hour. A long time to be reading. uh, Voice kind of gets a little going too. I always have trouble with that when I'm door knocking solar at night. I get so blah blah blah. I'm like, "Hi, my name's Larry. I know you're busy. I'll be quick and out of your way. It's my first week. Take it easy on me. Happy holidays." And I say, doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. We put all new insulation in your attic. Give you a brand new electrical panel on the side of your house. And if we can replace your current electric bill and cut it in half with a $50 per month solar system, is that less than you pay right now? But I do that over and over and over and over. And so, um, anyways, thanks for joining me today. See you tomorrow at 5:30, 6 a.m. Arizona time. Not sure. Um, have some still getting my daily schedule set up, but thank God I have a bed now and I can get some freaking sleep. Um, so amazing. And always make your bed. There's this old video, this admiral on YouTube. You can always look it up. Uh, I need another mouse. Let me see. Maybe I could share it. Maybe I could just kill the Zoom and just go back over on this computer. Pick up where you left off. Let me see if I can enter the studio and exit this one. But I'll change the camera. I don't know why I can do that. Anyways. Ooh. I'm back. You guys hear me?
Wait a second. Audio. Oh. Thanks. Can you guys?
Can you hear me now? There we go. Yeah, so got a little bit of working out how to do a Zoom and use my Chromebook. I just need like MacBook Pro with like vertical screen, side screens. I really want one of those vertical screens. I should write that down as a goal. Apple vertical screen. I think so dope. You gotta go see it. It's go to the Apple store. Check one of those out. So freaking cool. It's like $6,000. One day, I'll get one of those. Who's sending me messages? Stop it! Like Dan. Who's Megan Price? Fitzpatrick. Mm. Mm. Anyways, it's almost 7 a.m. and thanks for joining me today and listening to me read Jim Kwik. um, happy Monday. Hope you have a great week and put God first in everything you do. Open doors no man can shut. Um, have a great day. I'm out of here. Peace. Thanks. See you tomorrow. I might be back on later. You never know with me.